The Mandela Effect is a phenomenon where large groups of people recall certain events, brand names, or even historical facts differently from what appears in the official record. It's named after people's collective recollection that Nelson Mandela, South African activist, died in prison during the 1980s, when in reality he was actually released and went on to become the president of South Africa and passed away for real this time in 2013. Think of it like discovering your favorite cereal is spelled differently than you remember, or your all-time favorite movie quote was never actually said the way that you've been parroting it for decades. It's a little unnerving. It's kind of like realizing you've been wearing mismatched socks and shoes for years. In this video, I'm bringing to you 5 of the spiciest and most commonly cited Mandela Effect examples. For each, we're going to look at the origins, we're going to look at how the majority of people remember it, and how it's actually represented today. So, hold on to your newly discovered parallel universe tinfoil hats, because we're about to question everything that we thought we knew about reality. We're going to start with the one that's probably the most cited of all time, but if I'm going to make a series about Mandela effects, I have to put this one in here. It's the Berenstain Bears versus the Berenstein Bears. Generations of kids grew up reading, or having parents read to them, about a family of bears with a last name that many recall as Berenstein, spelled with an E. Countless people from the 80s and 90s are willing to bet a hefty slice of honeycomb that it was spelled that way on the covers of those books and the TV specials too. But the reality is that the official brand name is the Berenstain Bears, spelled with an A. And yes, if you look up any of the official publications by Stan and Jan Berenstain, you'll see that it's never been Berenstein in the official canon at least. According to the publisher's website, it's always been spelled with an A. Now, many people blame the confusion on our brains having a stronger association with the Steen ending, or at least the spelling. I mean, consider Einstein, Frankenstein, Benstein, Arlstein. Our minds just quietly slip that letter in, foregoing a brand new history. But here's why it's weird though. Kids who are now grown adults swear up and down that they remember the covers reading Berenstein in bright letters. And if you ask them to produce any evidence, they'll probably just give you a photoshopped image showing Berenstein. Or after some time rummaging in their parents' attic, they'll find the dreaded Berenstain plastered everywhere. It's basically like your childhood giving you the middle finger. Our next Mandela effect comes from the Star Wars universe, where some people remember this line, "Luke, I am your father," versus "No, I am your father." I messed that up. Ask anyone on the street to quote the most famous line from Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, and they'll probably shout out, "Luke, I am your father." You can almost picture James Earl Jones's booming voice delivering that moment. R.I.P. But the actual line in the movie is,
"I am your father."
If you watch the clip, Darth Vader never uses the name Luke in that scene. Instead, it's an icy cold delivery of "No, I am your father," with that menacingly asthmatic voice. Even James Earl Jones, the voice of Darth Vader, has been caught in interviews mixing up the line. Plus, pop culture references from sitcoms to stand-up routines often tweak the dialogue to make it clearer who's talking. Quoting "No, I am your father" out of context doesn't really, ring Star Wars in your mind. So we collectively simply added Luke in there for clarity. The phrase "Luke, I am your father" is scrawled across t-shirts, memes, coffee mugs, basically every piece of fan merch that you can imagine. But yet, that iconic phrase never existed in the actual film. The Force works in mysterious ways, doesn't it? Our next Mandela effect is the Monopoly Man's missing monocle. Picture the Monopoly Man, also known as Rich Uncle Pennybags. Go on now, picture him in your mind. Top hat, mustache, fancy suit, and a monocle, right? It's basically mandated that if you're a wealthy cartoon character, you have to have one. The official Monopoly Man, however, does not wear a monocle, and apparently never has. If you check Hasbro's website or any official box art, you'll see a bespectacled free face, though he does still have that adorable mustache. What about the origins of the mix-up, though? Well, many suspect that it's the Peanut Guy's fault, Mr. Peanut himself, who famously sports a top hat and cane and monocle. These two characters may simply be merging in our minds. We see a short, well-dressed cartoon with a mustache and a top hat, and our mental Photoshop just adds that monocle in there. People for years have attended costume parties dressed as the Monopoly Man with the monocle. And even pop culture references like this one from Ace Ventura.
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, and you must be the Monopoly guy.
Shows the character wearing a monocle as a gag, which really just reinforces this false memory that we all have. So yeah, I guess, apparently our eyes are playing tricks on us in more ways than one. Our next Mandela effect is Pikachu's supposed black-tipped tail. Many fans of the Pokemon franchise, especially those who grew up with the original episodes, recall Pikachu having a black-tipped tail. They'll swear on their holographic Charizard that the tip of his tail was definitely black. But the reality is, and this is according to the official artwork from the Pokemon Company, Pikachu's tail is solid yellow except for a slightly browner shade near the base of the tail. There is no black tip. The ears, on the other hand, do have black tips, but the tail doesn't. And that is probably the cause of the mix-up. The black tip on Pikachu's ears might actually be the culprit here. It's possible that our memory lumps this color scheme together, leaving us to recall a black stripe on the tail's end. Plus, some fan art even has that in it, and it really just reinforces the confusion. Pikachu is arguably one of the most recognizable fictional characters on planet Earth, yet a massive chunk of people who want to be the very best, like no one ever was, have this alternate version stored away in their memory. Another fun Mandela effect is Looney Tunes versus Looney Tunes. It's another spelling one. People are convinced that they watched Looney Tunes spelled Toons when they were kids. It's a series that stars Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, if you've never heard of it, of course. The memory can be so strong that some can even vividly picture the cartoon intro with Toons spelled with Toons. However, the reality is that the official spelling has always been Looney Tunes, Tunes. That's right, tunes, like music. It references the musical, accompaniment that happened during the early cartoons. Now, the cause of this mix-up might be because we see the classic cartoon characters, we think Toons, which is short for tunes, short for cartoons. It's logical, right? Plus, at least colloquially in today's world, when we hear the word tune, we often associate it with cartoon versus, music like the way it was in the past. If you grew up with those VHS tapes or posters of the Looney Tunes plastered on your wall, you've seen the name a bazillion times, but your brain might have auto-corrected it to the more logical tunes, Toons. Then, when you discover the truth, you have a meltdown that's reminiscent of Wile E. Coyote realizing that gravity does exist after all. Why do we, as a collective human hive mind, get so many details mixed up? Well, there's a few theories. One is this false memory / confabulation. Our brains are like overworked librarians sometimes, misfiling information and forging details to fill in the gaps. It's the mental version of that friend that you've known for years that's positive your birthday is on June 14th, but it's not. Never has been. And then there's the social reinforcement aspect. The more times that people repeat an error, like Luke, I am your father, the more it becomes fact in pop culture. And suddenly entire generations, are recalling lies that never existed. And if you want to get a little spicy, another theory is the parallel universe theory. Some folks love the idea that we're simply bouncing between timelines like little cosmic pinballs. In one universe, it may be spelled Berenstein, but in another universe, it's spelled Berenstain, but somehow we've hopped tracks. It's a wild concept, but wouldn't it be nice if we could also hop into a universe where we all have an extra $1 million in the bank? Or even an extra 1,000? I'll take that. Hey, it's been fun. I gotta go. I'll see you on the next one.